Okay, history video from Korea, part 2 or 3, whatever we're up to. So it has been a very long morning, actually day, it's actually mid-afternoon now. I left my hotel at 7 a.m. I caught trains and buses. I arrived at one part where Google told me to around 10 a.m. And I've been walking since 10 a.m. It's now 2 p.m. So I've been walking for 4 hours because Google doesn't know where it's taking me. But all this effort has been to get to Gwangseongbo fortress, which is just up here. Now I'm going to start telling the history of the fortress and why I'm here, and then by the time I'm done, hopefully we'll be up there, we'll have a look around at some of the structure. So in 1871, the United States felt compelled to try and open the Kingdom of Korea to international trade, like they'd done with Japan 10 years earlier. And things weren't going so well. The Korean Kingdom, they really didn't want anything to do with the outside world except for China. And this didn't sit too well with the United States. And so, sorry, I'm getting out of breath going uphill, 4 hours walking. And so the United States sent, don't quote me on this, I think it was a frigate, two sloops and 2 gunboats, with the intention of intimidating the Koreans into opening up, exactly like they'd done with the Japanese a few years earlier. And sorry, I was just staring down with the box office lady. Anyway, they send their ships into the Incheon River, and things don't go the way they expect. The Koreans just are not intimidated, and quite the opposite. They start jamming packed these forts along the Incheon River with troops. Now, in late May, at some point, the Koreans garrisoning this fortress opened fire on the American ships with their artillery. And it doesn't really go to plan. Most of the cannons are extremely outdated. And I'm just going to stand in the shade here because it's raining a little bit. Most of the cannons are extremely outdated. And the few shots that actually even managed to reach the American ships, they basically just bounce off. They do nothing. Anyway, the Americans don't like this at all, but they are happy it happened because it gives them the chance to start to have a reason to attack Korea and show their firepower superiority. And what they do is they send an ultimatum to the Korean government. They give them, I think it's 11 days to comply, and they say, open up or we're going to attack. The Koreans don't respond. And so on the 10th day, about several kilometers that way, I walked past it earlier, there's a small fortress, and several hundred seamen and United States Marines land at that fortress and take it from the garrison. As far as I'm aware, the casualties are very small or none. The Americans suffered no casualties. The Koreans might have had some wounded, but the garrison pretty much flees. The Americans then head upriver to the second fort, which again is about 2 kilometers that way. And when they get there, it's been abandoned. The Koreans have moved on and have locked themselves in Gwangseong. Now, the Americans come to Gwangseong and they issue a demand for surrender, to which they're told, get stuffed, we're not going to surrender. And here's, I'm dead at my dates mixed up, so again, don't quote me on this. Around, I think it was the 10th of June or the 11th of June, they set up artillery pieces on the hills just over there, and they start firing at the fort. In the evening, they mobilize on the hill that I just walked up. So the hill I just walked up when I started this video, they mobilized 500 sailors and Marines under the command of Lieutenant Hugh Matty, and which actually gives this fort its name. Later on after the battle, the Americans would call it Fort Matty. And in the evening, they storm the fort. So you've got 500 Americans against about 800 Korean defenders. Your Americans are, according to Wikipedia, the Americans are equipped with 1871 rolling block rifles. I don't know where that information came from. I don't think that's accurate. I think that's highly debatable. And my reasons for that is A, this is happening in mid-1871, so the weapons would have had to be made in the US, boxed, shipped to California, shipped over to China where these guys were before May, because they headed out around May, and then issued to these 500 guys. And just knowing the time it took to make and post things back then, and also the priorities of the US government, I don't think Marines and sailors in China would have been the first ones to receive these rifles. On top of that, all the images that we have of the after the siege here show US Marines equipped with 1861 Springfield rifle muskets. And you can see those on Google if you just type in 1871 US Korean expedition. Anyway, so you've got the Americans equipped with, we'll say, rifled muskets, and the Koreans largely equipped with smoothbore matchlock muskets, bows, arrows, spears, swords. So it's not much of a fair fight. The only thing the Koreans have going for them is they've got walls, so they're the defending force, and they outnumber the Americans. In the middle of the night, the Lieutenant Matty launches his attack, and they storm the gates. And as they get to the top of the hill and start scaling the Korean defenses, which I suspect were mostly earthworks rather than an entire solid wall like this, Hugh Matty is actually killed as he's trying to climb over the parapet. He's shot, I think, through the neck. Again, I might be wrong, don't quote me on that. And he goes down, and the two Marines immediately behind him kill the person the Korean who had killed Matty. The Americans go on to successfully storm the fort. They kill the Korean general. They capture his colors. And when all is said and done, 3 US service personnel lay dead within these grounds, and 10 more are seriously wounded. On the flip side of that, some 250 Koreans were killed in action, a further 100 more drowned while trying to escape the island, and the rest successfully fled except for 20 who were taken prisoner. In the immediate aftermath of the siege, America occupied the fortresses that they captured for about a month, and then they gave them up because it just wasn't strategically strategic to maintain them. And in the overall grand scheme of things, Korea still refused to negotiate. They refused to negotiate for the prisoners. They refused to negotiate on trade rights. And eventually America just gave the prisoners back, and went back to China. It would be another, I think it'd be another 5 or 6 years before Korea would sign in 1876 a trade agreement with Japan. And it wouldn't be to 1881 or 82 that they would sign an agreement with the United States, which would officially mark the opening of the country. And then after that, you have Great Britain, Russia, Germany, and blah, blah, blah. As a result of the battle, and I'm going to get back to that little cubby hole because the rain's coming. As a result of the battle, 15 Congressional Medals of Honor were awarded. Several of these, in my opinion, were for actions that did not warrant a Medal of Honor. For example, the quartermaster on one of the ships got a Medal of Honor for doing his job. So yeah, there's that. But some of them were. So 2 of them were awarded to the US Marines who managed to capture the general's colours when they killed him. And there's a photo of those 2 gentlemen plus an officer on Google. Again, if you just Google the expedition. And interestingly enough, one of those Marines actually deserted 1 month after he was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, and he deserted in China while garrisoning. He never heard, like the news that he got the Medal of Honor had never reached him, and so to this day, I believe his medal remains unclaimed by anyone. It's sort of just, I don't know what happens to unclaimed Medals of Honor. But that's just a little bit of an interesting tidbit. Maybe, again, maybe wrong. I believe it was Corporal Brown of the United States Marine Corps. Wikipedia will have all their names. So anyway, so yeah, that's the story of the failed United States expedition. I say failed because they got nothing out of it. And yeah, so thanks for listening.